Good morning. Good morning. Welcome everybody to Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. My name is Shindo Kevin Souza. And first, before we begin, I'd like to thank my teacher, Kwong-roshi, for giving me the opportunity to give this talk today and to fulfill the role of Shusho for this summer's practice period. The sole purpose of this talk is strictly to just encourage and inspire your practice. It's a beautiful day here on Sonoma Mountain. I was admiring the clear sky this morning as I was walking to the Zendo, and all the stars were visible. The closest star to Earth besides the sun is Proxima Centauri. It is 4.2 light years away. It would take about 81,000 years just to get there. That's over 2,700 human generations. And these stars, they're always there. We just don't always see them. But that doesn't mean that they're not always there. We had a nice group joining us online this morning for Zazen and service as well. The support online throughout this whole practice period has been incredible. Thank you. I'm not sure if you're able to hear some of the sounds that we hear in the Zendo each morning, but you can imagine roosters crowing the whole time. The birds start singing at around 5:30. Pine cones fall on the Zendo roof throughout Zazen. And sometimes the fog is so thick that it sounds like it's raining as it drips off the trees. During the first talk that I gave during the opening ceremony, I was mentioning that it had rained that morning, only later to learn that it was actually the fog, which makes it even more spectacular. So today marks the halfway point of our Summer Ango. It's been a great opportunity for us all to realign and renew our practice. I feel like the second week naturally has gone a little smoother than the first, but it still had its challenges. A lot of the first week, for me at least, was learning and relearning forms, chants, and adjusting to the schedule. And now as a group, I think we've seemed to find more of a rhythm as a sangha, as one body and one mind. When thinking about this, the term effortless effort came to mind when I think of where we are as a whole in this practice period right now. Suzuki Roshi used this term a lot, and he describes it as when you make an effort by following something, putting something as an example or according to the rules, that is effort, just effort. Effortless effort comes from your true understanding, which comes before the teaching or the rules. So whatever you do, that is your world, your practice. And when your practice becomes your practice, that is effortless effort. Whatever effort you make, that is your effort. When the effort is yours, when the world is yours, there's no restriction. It goes as you want to go because you want to do it. That is effortless effort. So that's kind of close to where I think we are today, or at least heading. It's a practice for me that I've been practicing. I feel for myself that a lot of the effort in the beginning of practice period was put towards just learning and completing the tasks for the sake of getting them done. I think now today, even with Zazen, it seems to just feel more natural, more of a part of the practice than just the next thing on the schedule to do. Most of the time. But I think that's what the schedule is helping with. I want to share this quote from Dogen. It's sent out twice a year each practice period when Roshi sends out the invitation and the commitment form for practice period. And I've read it hundreds of times, but the past couple of weeks, I've reread it a couple more times and it seemed to have struck me a little differently. It states, therefore, that is why Shakyamuni's summer training period in one place is the same as Manjushri's practice in 3 places. If there is no training period, there are no Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. All descendants of the Buddhas and ancestors must practice in a summer training period. If we participate in a summer training period, we are the descendants of the Buddhas and ancestors. To practice in a summer training period is to possess the body and the mind of the Buddhas and ancestors. It is their enlightened vision and the root of their life. If we do not practice in a summer training period, we are not the Dharma heirs of Buddha and ancestors, and we cannot become Buddhas and ancestors. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas made with clay, wood, gold, or the 7 precious jewels are present in the summer training period. During that training period, we live within the 3 treasures of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. It is our justification and method of teaching. All who wish to be true disciples of the Buddhas and ancestors surely practice during the summer training period. I think that when I was looking for a little bit of background on what we're actually doing here, that really helped a lot. And I'd like to remind everybody as well that the Zen Center is open. If you want to join us in person for Zazen on the Gaitang or for our 7-day session, which starts tomorrow night, please email the office before arriving and just make sure that you're fully vaccinated. I hope to see some more people before this practice period ends. So now I'd like to get into the theme for this summer's practice period. Sudong Po, a Sung poet, was awakened by the sounds of the stream in Lushan one night after having heard his Zen teacher, Chang Sung, expound the discourse of insentient beings on the Dharma. He immediately composed the following poem. The sounds of the valley streams are his long, broad tongue. The sights of the mountains are his pure body. 84,000 verses are heard throughout the night. How can I relate to others what they say? The sounds of the valley streams are his long, broad tongue. The sights of the mountains are his pure body. 84,000 verses are heard throughout the night. How can I relate to others what they say? In last week's talk, I touched on Dogen's essay titled The Sound of the Stream, the Form of the Mountain, which is the 25th book of the Shobogenzo, Kisei Senshoku, in which he talks about the Dharma of insentient beings. In studying that, it has led me to dig deeper into this in other works of Dogen where he talks about the Dharma of insentient beings. Roshi had asked me a question earlier this week on whether or not Sudong Po's teacher's discourse on the Dharma of insentient beings was recorded, and I couldn't find it, but it inspired me to give my novice attempt to share a discourse on the Dharma of insentient beings. So we first hear Dogen speak of insentient beings in Bendoa on the Endeavor of the Way, which is the first fascicle of the Shobogenzo, his earliest dated work. In it, he states, because earth, grass, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles of the world of phenomena in the 10 directions all engage in Buddha activity. Those who receive the benefits of wind and water are inconceivably helped by the Buddha's transformation. Splendid and unthinkable and intimately manifest enlightenment. Those who receive these benefits of water and fire widely engage in circulating the Buddha's transformation based on original realization. Because of this, all those who live with you and speak with you also receive immeasurable Buddha virtue. Practice continuously and extensively unfold the endless, unremitting, unthinkable, unnameable Buddha Dharma throughout the entire world of phenomena. What I think Dogen is saying here is that as we are practicing Zazen, the earth, grass, trees, walls, tiles, and pebbles are also practicing Zazen with us, supporting us, engaging in Buddha activity. How can we possibly say that this Zendo and the ground it sits on is not practicing Buddha activity? In the Genjo koan, Dogen writes, when Dharma does not fill your whole body and mind, you may assume it is already sufficient. When Dharma fills your body and mind, you understand that something is missing. For example, when you sail out on a boat to the middle of the ocean, where no land is in sight, and view the 4 directions, the ocean looks circular and does not look any other way. But the ocean is neither round nor square. Its features are infinite in variety. It's like a palace. It's like a jewel. It only looks circular as far as you can see at that time. All things are like this. Though there are many features in the dusty world and the world beyond conditions, you see and understand only what your eye of practice can reach. In order to learn the nature of the myriad things, you must know that although they may look round or square, the other features of oceans and mountains are infinite in variety. Whole worlds are there. It's not only around you, but also directly beneath your feet or in a drop of water. The Dogen's describing here how different beings see water. Fish sees water as a palace, heavenly beings see it as a jewel, and we see water simply as water. It's all about the relationship between the beings in the water, or sky, or mountain, or any object for that matter. I was kind of exposed to a new book of the Shoba Genzo that I haven't quite made it to yet. It's called Book 54, and it's titled On the Dharma That Non-Sentient Beings Express, Mujo Seppo. Dogen refers to non-sentient beings not just as things in nature, such as trees, rivers, mountains, and stones, but also those beings who have dropped off the false self, who have escaped the tyranny of their greed, hatred, and delusion, and who have freed themselves from slavery to their senses. That is, that they have become, and Dogen uses the term, such a person. I'm going to repeat that. Dogen refers to the non-sentient beings, not just as things in nature, such as trees, rivers, mountains, and stones, but also those beings who have dropped off the false self. That's such a person. Those who have escaped the tyranny of their greed, hatred, and delusion, and who have freed themselves from slavery to their senses. I'm going to share some parts from Mujo Seppo that stood out to me. National teacher Echu of Kotakoji Temple in the western capital of Great Tung, China, was asked by a monk, Do even non-sentient beings voice the Dharma? The national teacher replied, they are always expressing it with ardor, and there is no interruption in their voicing of it. The monk said, why then do I not hear it? The national teacher replied, though you yourself do not hear it, that won't stand in the way of others hearing it. The monk asked, I'm still unclear. What kind of people could possibly hear it? The national teacher said, saintly ones hear it. The monk then asked, venerable monk, do you also hear it? The teacher answered, I do not hear it. The monk then asked, since you, venerable monk, do not hear it, how do you know that non-sentient beings voice the Dharma? The national teacher replied, fortunately for you, I do not hear it. If I heard it, I would be on the level of saints, and then you could not hear my voicing of the Dharma. The monk then said, if this is the case, then sentient beings play no part in the Dharma. The teacher responded, I express the Dharma for the sake of sentient beings, but I do not express it for the sake of saints. The monk then asked, what are sentient beings like after they hear it? The teacher answered, they are beyond being sentient beings, or as Dogen would like to say, such a person. Thereupon, the monk composed the following verse, which he presented to the abbot. How marvelous, how marvelous. The Dharma expounded by non-sentient beings is inconceivable. Listening with your ears, no sound. Hearing with your eyes, you understand directly. Yeah, that I really like that. And at the part when the national teacher said, fortunately for you, I do not hear it. And he, just his response to that, I thought was just incredible. Moving on, still in Mujo Seppo, novices, as well as those long in practice, who may be exploring through their training what the statement, the non-sentient give expression to the Dharma means, should straightaway be diligent in their study of this story of the national teacher. They are always expressing it with ardor, and there's no interruption in their voicing of it, which is how we put it. Always is one instant of time within all times. There is no interruption in their voicing of it. Implies that expressing it is already coming forth and without interruption. Do not explore the matter of the non-sentient given expression to the Dharma as if it were necessarily like that of sentient beings who are making vocal sounds to express the Dharma. To take voicings in the realm of sentient beings out of their context and then liken them to voicings in the realm of the non-sentient is not the way of Buddha. When the non-sentient give expression to the Dharma, it may not necessarily be with audible sounds, just as, for instance, a sentient being's given expression to the Dharma may not involve audible sounds. For the time being, you should diligently explore this through your training by asking yourself and others, just what is a sentient being? Just what is a non-sentient being? Accordingly, you should pay the utmost attention to details in order to explore through your training just what this matter of non-sentient beings expressing the Dharma is all about. According to the opinions of foolish people, the rustling of the trees in the forest, the opening of flowers, and the falling of leaves are believed to be non-sentient things expressing the Dharma. But such people are not persons who have learned what the Buddha taught. If it were so, then who could not hear the Dharma that is expressed by the non-sentient? For the moment, you should reflect on whether or not there are grasses and trees and forests in the realm of the non-sentient. and whether or not the realm of the non-sentient is intersecting or mingling with that of the sentient. At the same time, to take such things as grasses, trees, tiles, and stones to be non-sentient is to be less than fully educated, and to believe that non-sentient beings means being grass, trees, tiles, or stones is to tire of exploring the matter. To generalize, hearing the Dharma is not limited merely to the sphere of the ear as a sense organ, or to someone's being conscious of sounds. We hear the Dharma with our whole vitality, with our whole mind, with our whole body, with our whole being. We hear it from before the time when father and mother were born, and from before the time that the lords of awe-inspiring voices until the limits of our future and throughout the limitless future. The Dharma is heard before the body and after the mind. There's much to be gained from these instances of hearing the Dharma, so do not think that unless our mental consciousness is involved, there is nothing to be gained from hearing it. Someone whose mind has gone astray or whose body has sunk in idleness can still profit from hearing the Dharma, just as someone who is unaware of their body and mind can also profit from hearing the Dharma. All Buddhas and all ancestors invariably live through moments like these when they are becoming a Buddha or ancestor. How can the intellectual efforts of the ordinary worldly people possibly catch sight of how the mighty force of one's practice comes to behold body and mind? They cannot fully clarify for themselves even what the bounds of body and mind are. Once the meritorious seeds of hearing the Dharma have been sown within the fertile fields of body and mind, they will know no season of decay. Ultimately, they will sprout, and with the passing of time, they will surely bear fruit. I think the first line in this passage really sums it up. Really nice. I think that was what struck me first when I was reading this. Do not explore the matter of non-sentient beings given expression to the Dharma as if it were necessarily like that of the sentient beings who are making vocal sounds to express the Dharma. To take voices in the realm of sentient beings out of their context and then liking them to voicings in the realm of the non-sentient is not the way. I picked a difficult topic to talk about. Thank you for hanging in there with me. The next passage is from the transmission of the lamp, where Shangyan is enlightened through natural phenomena. One day, Master Guishan said to Shangyan, I'm not asking you about what's recorded in or what can be learned from the scriptures. You must say something from the time before you were born and before you could distinguish objects. I want to record what you say. Shangyan was confused and unable to answer. He sat in deep thought for some time and then mumbled a few words to explain his understanding. But Master Guishan wouldn't accept it. Shangyan said, then would the master please explain it? Guishan said, what I might say would merely be my own understanding. How could it benefit your own view? Shangyan returned to the monk's hall and searched through the books that he had collected, but he couldn't find a single phrase that could be used to answer Guishan's question. Shangyan then sighed and said, a picture of a rice cake can't satisfy hunger. He then set fire to all of his books and said, during this lifetime, I won't study the essential doctrine. I'll just become a common mendicant monk, and I won't apply my mind to this anymore. Shangyan tearfully left Guishan and then went traveling and eventually resided at Nanyang, the site of the grave of the national teacher Nanyang Huizong. One day, as Shangyan was scything grass, a small piece of tile was knocked through the air and struck a stalk of bamboo. Upon hearing the sound of the tile hitting the bamboo, Shangyan instantly experienced vast enlightenment. He then bathed and lit incense. Bowing in the direction of Guishan, he said, "The master's great compassion exceeds that of one's parents. Back then, if you had explained it, then how could this have come to pass?" The master's great compassion exceeds that of one's parents. Back then, if you had explained it, then how could this have come to pass? Shangyan then wrote a verse. "One strike and all knowledge is forgotten. I do not need cultivation anymore. Activity expressing the ancient road, I do not fall into passivity. Far and wide, not a trace is left. The great purpose lies beyond sound and form, in every direction, the realized way. Beyond all speech, the ultimate principle." Shangyan then dispatched a monk to take the verse to Master Guishan and recite it to him. Upon hearing it, Guishan said to Yangshan, "The disciple has penetrated." I really like this one as well. The master's great compassion exceeds that of one's parents. Back then, if you had explained it, then how could things come to pass? We tend to think that only human beings can become Buddhas. Insentient beings, to me, undoubtedly engage in Buddha activity. I think that is why, as Zen students, we learn to handle those that support our practice with such care. The bowls and cups we use to eat and drink, the temple in which we practice, and the earth that provides nourishment and sustains life. Sudong Po realized that the Buddha is not somewhere other than the sounds of the stream and the form of the mountain. Once he realized this, 84,000 verses came forth in the night. Was it Sudong Po or the mountains and streams that were enlightened? I'd also like to share this poem from Gary Snyder. I quote to you one of Basho's disciples who took down something to Basho and said to a group of students, he said, "To learn about the pine, go to the pine. To learn about bamboo, go to the bamboo. But this learn is not just what you think learn is. You only learn by becoming totally absorbed in that which you wish to learn. There are many people who think they have learned something and willfully construct a poem which is artifice and does not flow from their delicate entrance into the life of another object." So as I've been working with this theme through practice period, it's really opened a lot of doors for me. It came to me as I was studying the Mountains and Rivers Sutra, when I learned that it had been an inspiration for Dogen, and I have felt a real connection with the poem itself. A lot of what I've just shared has just come to me this week in research and reading. In the months leading up to this practice period, I started thinking about all the talks that I would be giving. and in trying to prepare ahead of time some talks that I would be able to share. But after about the third month, I decided that that would not be possible, that the only thing to do would be to work through these talks each week, and write what's happening at the time and what's going on, and share my experiences through this practice. So I appreciate everybody's patience and attention while I work through these talks, and also my ongoing practice of trying to communicate the Dharma through this practice period. So I think we have probably do about 5 minutes of questions or comments. If you would like, we can do both here in the Zendo and online. So why don't we want to start with, let's start with the Zendo, if anybody has any comments or questions. Maybe online,
if someone online wants to ask a question, you can just unmute yourself and begin, and I'll try to highlight